Up in Ohio, we had a common folk hero, a man who was not revered not only for his willingness to serve other peoples, but also who followed his passions. This man was Johnny Appleseed, a guy who went without the bare essentials to bring happiness and fruit to everyone that he could possibly reach. I once believed that everyone knew about my great hero until it was revealed to me a couple days ago that most people here thought that he was just a myth, or in severe cases, invented gravity. I guess it's just an Ohio thing to love Johnny Appleseed. So that's why I decided to inform you with an informative speech on the ground. Sorry. I've decided to inform you guys about this man who was very good and was probably one of the best people to walk on the grounds of this blessed country. Johnny Appleseed is a myth, but the person that he's based off of, his real name is John Chapman. He was born in September 26, 1774 in Massachusetts. His father was a Minuteman that fought in the Revolutionary War, and his mom died when he was young, but his father remarried and then had, with his new wife, 10 half-brothers and sisters. And so John, to get out of the crazy farm life with all of his siblings, left on a trek with his half-brother, and they walked around Ohio and Indiana for a bit until they met up back with their family in Ohio. And that was like his first trip, and that's where he fell in love with walking around. In Ohio, once he met back up with his family, his father was an apprentice to this man named Mr. Crawford. I don't know his first name, but he was an apple orchardist, and he taught John how to plant apple trees, how to care for them, and so that's where he first fell in love with apples. And so then we get into the trip. This is the part that John is most famous for. He loved walking around, like I said. He learned this when he was with his brother. And so he started out in Ohio, then went up to Pennsylvania, then down in Kentucky, Indiana, and he finally died. Oh, sorry. He went to Illinois. He died around there. But his trek was journeying west. And so he would walk around and he would start nurseries. A lot of people believe, the common misconception about him is that he would just start random orchards and just like throw apple seeds on the ground. But that wasn't the case. He was actually a really smart businessman. He would start the nurseries for himself, and most of the apples that he grew were to make beer. And so he was a pretty smart guy. And some people say like, oh, we shouldn't love John because he made beer, and I'm like, that's not the point. He did make beer, but it was for a profit to help him do what he loved. And most of the times, when he was helping farmers, they wouldn't have lots of money because they're just farmers. So he would help them for like clothes or food. And he never had a home, but when he had to stay to like nourish a nursery of baby apple trees, he would set up a little teepee on the side of the road, and that's where he would live. And so while he was traveling, he would almost never wear shoes just because they're expensive, and when you're walking around, you have to replace them a lot. So he was barefoot, and then he would carry his pot on his head for cooking his food, like a real man. And then he also had a Bible. And so he would go around and teach people. He was really like a naturalist, I guess. He loved the idea that when you're out in the outdoors, that's how you can get closer to God. And so he carried around the Bible to like share scriptures and share his beliefs with other people. And so that was John, and now I'm going to talk about Johnny. When John died, he was in Indiana. That's what I meant to say earlier. He died in March 1845, and when he died, he had 1,200 acres of apple orchards, and he had claimed to walk over 4,000 miles in the mid-east of America. And so that's what he did with his life. And this isn't true, but one of the legends that came out from him was that he walked on his feet so much that they were hard enough that he could get bit by a rattlesnake without, like, the rattlesnake the rattlesnake's teeth would break when they bit his feet because that's how hard they were. And so that always inspired me. I loved to like go running around in the snow in Ohio without shoes on to try to get hard feet, but it never worked out. And so in the end, it doesn't really matter what John did. It's all about Johnny Appleseed and kind of like what he stood for and helping other people and not caring about yourself, just spreading love and cheer to everyone. Thank you.